Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started here. The fabricator stage, how to build a sales engine and drive business growth with Justin. A few quick reminders. Wanted to make sure that everybody fills out their card. Friday, there's going to be an a drawing, $2,500 gift, and it looks like there's about six vendors to go get your fabricator's card and then put it in the box there. I'd like to make a shout out and thank you to our sponsors. We have ISFA, International Surface Fabricators Association. ISFAnow.org is their website. Nancy's here representing ISFA. If you're not members of ISFA, great resource to tap into. Also, Rockheads have a booth here right across from us. Great resource to build your business. They focus really a lot on the business metrics, building your business, building your people, and your organization. With that, I'm going to turn the time over to Justin Shaw. He's the founder and CEO of Stone Fabricator Elite. He helps fabricator businesses build their sales engine and build their sales processes. And excited to learn.
Awesome, thank you, Blake. Can you guys hear us okay? All right, perfect. All right, so Blake already gave a great shout out to ISFA. I'll do the same as well. Very grateful for them in including us here and tomorrow as well. Ed will be speaking later. I'll talk a little bit about that near the end, but you will definitely want to come back here at 1:45? Yeah, okay. So I think between my presentation and Ed's, if you guys are here looking for ways in which to grow your business, increase your sales, and how to plan for turbulent times, these are two talks you don't want to miss. So make sure you come back at 1:45. All right, guys. Okay, so the main things that we're going to talk about today in this discussion are we're going to get on the same page about some of the big challenges that shops face and Stone Pros in general as related to sales. We'll cover what is a sales engine, how do you quickly build one, because there are some turbulent times ahead, and a step-by-step, or steps to success, sorry, pretty much my pro tips for building that quickly, and then we'll finish off with a quick Q&A. All right, so Blake did give me a little bit of an introduction. I'll tell you a little bit more about myself. I've been working with Stone Pros since 2016. We work exclusively with Stone Pros, and so we've helped many companies over the years to essentially build the systems, the processes, and campaigns they need to scale their business more quickly and easily. In 2022 alone last year, we helped generate over $50 million in opportunities, specifically on the B2B side, so that's with design build pros, GCs, and millwork companies. And I think the closing number at the end was 14 million. It bumped up a little bit from the last number I shared at Tice. All right, so number one, the struggle to grow or to gain control of your sales. And we're going to talk about the main constraints faced by stone shops and surface fabricators. All right, so right now, some of you guys might be experiencing this, and it does vary region to region, but a softening of the market means that you're going to be facing a lower volume of overall jobs, quotes, bids, and opportunities. There's tighter margins, which makes things more challenging, harder to generate profit. And then there's labor market challenges, which sort of amplifies things when you have trouble hiring quality. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that when it comes to building your sales engine, what you should keep in mind for that constraint specifically. And so these market and economic conditions, and I think Ed will be talking a lot more about those and how to read the leading indicators and different things related to these different challenges, hit shops very hard because they're also unable to control their volume of leads and can't offset a decline in sales. So if in like Q1, many of the shops that we've talked to saw a decline in sales of like 20%. If you don't have a way to predictably control that and offset that, then that can be quite challenging. How many of you guys own a shop here or work at a shop? Okay. Anybody here have a decline in sales so far in Q1? Okay. And what do you guys feel might be contributing to that, aside from maybe some of those things I mentioned?
So say that again, economical fears?
Yeah, I would say economical fears on our part. The retail side is what's really dropped off on ours. Our designers, remodelers, they seem to be consistent, but the retail side is you can almost drop off every time there's a rate increase. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. And in different markets, we hear the complete opposite. You know, retail's still going strong. Yeah. Oh, nice. Fellow Canadian? Oh, Atlanta. So not being able to offset that decline, right? You might be aware of, or you've got a hunch of what's causing that. I think Ed's also going to talk about, like, you might have a hunch of, you know, what's causing that, but ways in which you can make sure you dial that in, that your assumptions are correct. So we're going to talk about how you can offset that, because that's what you ultimately want is control. And then a leaky pipeline. So the opportunities that you are getting, you're not converting or is getting many of those across the finish line as you want to. Right, so that's also a big challenge. So you're leaving money on the table, which is what we hear a lot of. All right, so what is a sales engine and how does it help to solve these constraints? And really, once you get this, you know, you've invested the time, energy, and you've built this in your business, it's really the key to unlocking that ability to control your sales. All right, so there's many different definitions if you look it up, but my definition of a sales engine is it's a combination of systems and processes used to A, generate leads, and B, be able to qualify and nurture them at scale, leveraging automation and a CRM to organize them. So you want to get beyond, if you're doing that manually or tracking that in Excel spreadsheets, for example, you really want to be able to move beyond that and nurture, you know, your prospects and your opportunities at a high level. And at scale is the key, so that no matter what else is going on in the business, that's happening at the background regardless of the volume. Right? So it's easy to nurture 3 leads, you know, that you got, or opportunities or bids. But if you're trying to scale or trying to grow, you want to be able to do that if you're getting 10 a day. You want to have the systems in place to be able to do that.
I'd be curious, Justin, how many currently use a sales engine right now or have a process for sales? Is that a challenge for anybody? What makes it challenging?
For ourselves, we've just recently gone digital, so just getting the processes in place, to be honest with you, to track that without too much work, because the salespeople, you really want them out there selling, right?
Right.
Not spending too much time in the tool.
Thank you, Justin. Sorry.
No, that's great. Please do. So then C, that last part, is you really want to be able to convert them, all of your opportunities that you have, into paying customers at a high level, a high conversion rate. And then the last part is really, the post-sale nurturing that should not be ignored, to convert those customers, those paying customers, into advocates of your brand, to essentially create that flywheel within your engine. All right, so the key to being able to offset these market and economic conditions to either, if you've seen a decline in 20% sales, make up 15% of that ground, or if you're in a luxury position of being able to focus on growth, you want to be able to have predictability on your side. And so in order to get control, you need to be able to control the amount of output that you're going to get from your system. And so that's sales and return on investment by the input that you put into the engine. And the inputs are generally money, time, and sometimes it's also could be just effort that you're putting into it. But those 3 things. So you want to be able to control the input. So if you're seeing, or you're forecasting that in Q3 it's going to be even a little bit bumpier and a little bit more of a slowdown, okay, well, we're going to increase spend, time, energy, and effort to offset that. But the variable you want to know is, what are we going to get back for all of that, right? And how much do we have to put in? All right, so to have this level of control, you need to have really 4 parts to a sales engine. So to keep things simple, the top 3 are the most important. So if you go home, you're taking notes or photos with your phone, and we're going to have the option to just scan a quick QR code, and then we'll send you this presentation. So you got all the notes. But the first 3 are the most important, and then later you can focus on number 4. But number 1, a lead generation mechanism. Okay. Number 2 is the lead nurturing systems and processes. Number 3 is sales conversion optimization. Really knowing, okay, if we have X number of opportunities in the pipeline, on average, we're going to convert 45% of those. You want to know if that's the goal, the target that you need, then how can we optimize our processes and systems to make sure that we, are able to get that many deals across the finish line? And then number 4, once you've got those first 3 in place, you should really be focusing on the post-sale nurturing, which we refer to as gratitude campaigns. So many shops, rely heavily on referrals, but don't have anything in place to ensure that they see those consistently coming through the door. All right. So number 3, and most importantly here of why you guys are showing up to this presentation, is what are the keys to building a sales engine? All right, so I'm going to break down within those 4 parts to the engine, just 3 pro tips for the steps to success for building that engine. So number 1 is you need a consistent channel, and we recommend just starting with 1 that you're going to be doing your marketing in. Now, a lot of shops, a lot of stone pros are doing some form of marketing, but when I mention this, it's 1 channel that you can produce X number of leads on any given month predictably. So you need to first dial that in, get your campaigns in place, your ad campaigns running, or your outreach if it's B2B, in place, dialed in before you spread yourself too thin and try something else. So for example, if you're running pay-per-click campaigns and you're thinking, well, we need more leads, if it's working, you want to focus on what's working and repeat successful actions versus sort of diluting things and taking something that's kind of working and then trying it in Facebook and spending more money there, thinking that you're then just going to increase your volume. Once you have 1 channel dialed in, it's a lot easier to take it and repeat it in subsequent channels. So that's the recommendation there. Number 2, and often overlooked, is a compelling campaign. What's really going to work to move people forward in a tighter market, more competition, and that shouldn't come down to price. You need to really be able to communicate why you're the obvious choice. That's a whole separate conversation. We'll probably do a workshop with ISFA. So if you're an ISFA member or you're not, probably a good idea to get in with them, because we regularly, our company, Stone Fabricator Elite, will do workshops with ISFA, and we'll be talking about how to create that, I think, in a couple of months. All right, and then last is, if we spend X, and that's either time, money, or energy, we will get Y. So that's kind of the key thing to focus on. And it's easier said than done, but it's worth it. If it takes you a year to figure out, okay, our Google ads are really dialed in, our pay-per-click campaigns, when we spend $5,000 a month, we know we get this volume of leads, which convert into this many quotes and translates into this many jobs. Only then, when you have that, can you create that predictability to know that if you're going to, in Q3, see a additional 5% decline, okay, then it's easier to do that math on how to fill that capacity gap or that revenue gap. All right, so number 2 then is when all those leads and opportunities are coming in, and this is both important on the B2C, retail side of things, and with B2B as well. So I should just make a quick note on that. If your channel and you're focused mainly on, okay, we have lost a contractor or a home builder, and we need to make that up, then 1 channel is outreach. It's picking up the phone, it's dropping emails, knocking on doors. How many of those doors do we need to knock on? How many times to generate a new account, to fill that extra capacity of having a GC send us 3 projects a quarter that we're missing? So, all right, so when those opportunities come in, how are we making sure that we're organizing them, that there's some automation working in the background, and that we're getting the right intel, on what's working, what's not working, and what to do about it? If you guys can't hear me, let me know. And really the key here is you're going to want a proper CRM to do that. How many of you guys use like a MoreAware, Quote Countertop, Action Flow, Stone Profits? Any of those types of things? Okay. So those things are great as a ERP primarily and have some CRM capability. But if you really want to grow and scale your business and have that control, it's a good idea to look outside of that, add a CRM that is built for sales and marketing specifically. So that's the pro tip. When I say proper, that's what I'm referring to.
Hey,
Something that, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I wonder, could you explain the difference what an ERP and a CRM is? Just, in lame,
Yeah, so if you guys are familiar with using a MoreAware, Stone Profits, it's going to help you. Really, I think the simplest way of defining that is, aside from being able to do the quote in it, It's really what happens after the job is won, of really managing that from end to end at a high level. And some of them do have some functionality of, okay, you got a quote out, some reminders and prompts to follow up with that quote. But when you look at a HubSpot, Salesforce, Pipedrive, that's really what's going to give you the ability to organize, automate at a high level, nurturing prospects, but also to be able to gain the level of data and intelligence, all the way from when somebody touches your website or fills out a form, all the various activities, conversations, what pages of the website or inventory did they look at, who engaged with them how many times, how many touches was needed to move them across the finish line. So there's a big discrepancy there.
All that pre-sales efforts that go into it.
That front end, totally. And right, I would say that, so we now build exclusively on HubSpot. It was selected by our clients like 3 years ago. They asked, who should we go with? And Pipedrive's Salesforce, HubSpot, but I would really say Pipedrive and HubSpot are the two you'd look at for the average, shop that's anywhere near $1 million and over is what you're looking at. And then if you're under that, if you're able to make an investment still in those two, are quite affordable and they can grow with your business. So that would be my recommendation. What's up?
Those are pretty reasonable even for a smaller business? Okay.
Yeah, and they have plans that are very accessible and affordable, and then you don't want to necessarily have to migrate later, because that's a major headache. And then you want the sales processes and the playbooks so that your nurturing of how you engage with prospects and opportunities is defined and it's repeatable. So one of the things I'll keep sort of saying throughout this is repeating successful actions. It's hard to do that if you don't have that defined. So if you're looking to optimize conversions or make sure you're nurturing at a high level and you're kind of reinventing the wheel from month to month, it's hard to create that predictability. So those sales processes and playbooks, and for example, HubSpot has a tool in there where you can build your sales playbooks. So when a sales rep is going on to a qualifying call, or a discovery call with B2B, the playbooks can be built right in that they follow. So I'm jumping on this call and I know the key questions I'm supposed to ask and log them right in the system at that time, and it's recorded. So a CRM can really come in handy. And then the last one would be communicating in the various stages of nurturing. You can't do this too much really, and that's to communicate your UVP, your unique value proposition, or to just make it simpler, why you're the obvious choice. And that's kind of the key phrase to think about, obvious, right? So that they shouldn't have to think about it, they don't have to really weigh the options, and then it just really comes down to price. We're the obvious choice because of, and you have to spend a little time doing that to figure out what your competitive advantage is, what sets you apart, but why that matters to your customer. And it's not like, okay, it's a family business, 20 years, for example, because the next shop down the block, Blake, your shop's been in business for 20 years, right? But then there's probably a shop down,
Why would I do business with anyone else?
Right. That's been in business for 15 years, and then it's really arbitrary, right? So you need something that's just obvious why this matters. Oh, sorry. And when I say communicate that in the nurturing, just a quick example of that, if a new lead enters your system right away, that's the time where you want to introduce them to the brand, and the unique value proposition, why that matters to them at the very beginning. But that's not just one email. You want to send that and drip it out over time. That's why you need a CRM to do that. But if they reach the point where they've requested a quote, okay, you're going to want to do that with some other things, right? Before and after pictures, testimonials, and at various milestones and stages in the customer journey, you should be communicating different points of value. That makes sense at that key part in the sales journey. And so CRM really helps to do that, because sales reps are busy and you can't necessarily expect them to always communicate that every time they're engaging with a prospect at scale. That's why I used that word before, key being at scale. It's hard to deliver your unique value proposition to everybody that walks through a showroom, calls you, requests a quote, and so that's why a CRM, leveraging automation to do those communications on behalf of your sales reps, really will make the difference between you and your competitor.
So a very intentional process is what I'm hearing. Is that right, Justin?
Right. And that you don't have to rely on somebody on your team having the bandwidth to do every single time. So repeating successful actions is the key here at scale. All right, so number 3, to be able to optimize sales conversions to get that rate that you need to either fill extra capacity or if sales have declined a little bit. Well, it's really important, even if you were to play devil's advocate and say, well, we're too busy or we don't have the money to focus on marketing right now, totally understood. We also don't have the money bandwidth to focus on a CRM. Right now it's too much. But man, we've got a 20% decline in sales. One of the key areas that you can focus on is just getting more opportunities that you've already earned across the finish line. So if you do nothing else, this is probably the key area to focus on, which is to, number one, increase the average amount of deals that you close, but then the average deal size, right? That's really important. So there's really 3 ways to grow a business. Increase the volume of sales, increase the average deal size, and increase the lifetime value, which is a little bit harder if your customers are all retail, but that's where it's important. Lifetime value could be connected to referrals. So how many times does the average customer send us a referral? Can be lifetime value. But those are really the 3 laws to growing any business. Increasing total volume of sales, average deal size, so that's upselling, whether it's material, whether it's add-ons, whether it's starting to bring in ancillary services or products as we head into tougher times to increase the average deal size because you have less deals, right? So how can we make up that gap? So these are the things to think about, and then lifetime value. All right, and then a big one here, and that we hear a lot from different shops is, and not just shops, I'll use that a lot, but if you're a supplier, if you have like an equipment company, it's the same problems that we hear a lot about is, I've got a great team, but they're really order takers, not sales pros that are, have the tenacity and they're going out there and they're really pounding the phones, or they have the skills. Like they've been with us a long time, they're like family, but they'll really handle the things that walk through the door or when the phone rings. And so you really want to focus on, and that's hard to do on your own, but we'll talk about resources. ISFA is one of them. Right now we have an 8-part webinar series every month, right, Nancy, where we're providing totally complimentary training for your sales team and anybody in a sales seat. So you can check out ISFA.
And that's on isfanow.org, is that right?
Thank you. Yeah, Nancy will hand out some stuff for that, but if you don't have the resources, fantastic organizations like ISFA are providing free complimentary training for your sales teams. That cannot be undervalued, just how important that can be. Because as you develop those skills, you're going to help to increase the percentage, right? So if they're able to close more deals, ultimately that's going to impact the bottom line. So an important place to focus. And then number 3 is expediting contracts being signed and deposits being made. Even that small thing when it comes down to sales conversion is velocity. How fast can we get somebody either from into our system, we have an opportunity to either close lost, so we don't spend energy and time and resources trying to get this person across the finish line, or to close one ideally, and with money in the bank, so it's legit, it's fully closed. We want to do that as quickly as possible. And so there are tools. When you're getting into using a proper CRM, like a HubSpot, for example, right within it, you can load up DocuSign or a tool like that where you have all your paperwork. With one click can go out to that customer, and it can be immediately signed and trigger a deposit electronically through platforms like a Stripe, for example, that everything then is automated and you can capture it on the spot. And our recommendation for that, for a pro tip, is to have the sales rep handle all of that. So they've been with the person all along, not just to send and fire off the contract and then just wait. And then you're just chasing person for the signature. To really just, as a value add, get on the phone with them, to proactively be there to answer any questions that they have, but to have them just e-sign it on the spot. And then with things like Stripe, they can provide you just a payment link where it's flexible with whatever the amount is. So if it's a deposit would be $2,500, the customer can just enter that in, immediately connects to your bank, and you can get on with doing business, aside from that being something of a bottleneck. So I think it's good for companies to embrace the tools and technologies that are out there to get things across more quickly so that you're not just chasing people for something that should be, when the deal's done, it's done, right? All right, and then number 4, the post-sale gratitude campaigns. So how many of you guys rely heavily on referrals? All right. And how many of you guys can say, okay, in May, we're going to get a certain number of referrals. You could say, okay, how many referrals are you going to get in May, do you think?
Percentage-wise, our monthly sales is about 70% is repeat business or referrals.
Okay. And then on the retail side of things,
Yeah,
Okay.
that's retail.
oh, nice.
Yeah.
Excellent. Great. That's great. Okay, so you're in a good spot. And you can just add to that. All right, so our steps to success for creating what you could call like your referral engine as part of your sales engine, so that you know, like that, how many you're going to get on any given monthly basis, is to surprise and delight long after installation. And if you're here and you have any other kind of business, this still applies, right? After fulfillment, essentially. What are you doing so that you create raving fans that talk about you, well after it's done? And we'll give you a few key tips on what you can do for that. But for the clients that we work with, we build out very intentionally, a roadmap for 12 months. And it depends on the size of the job. So if it's over 10K, let's say, it might be 12 months where we're surprising and delighting for that period of time. If it's something smaller, it might be 90 days. So you have to kind of,
Again, being intentional about it. How
Right.
do we treat these clients after the job is done?
Right, exactly. So for example, if it is a $2,500 project, let's just talk about that. What might happen? So you get them on the phone, contract signed, deposits made. Within a proper CRM, there's ways to trigger an automated handwritten card that just the sales rep would click one thing, it's in the mail, it's there 3 days later. Thanks them for their business, et cetera, which is a big touch. Our clients as well, immediately after that, in the sales playbook, will send a gift out. So there's different ways that you might want to do that. It could vary from something curated with wine and a food basket, for that example, or it could be something like partnering with a granite gold or a more countertop product, for example, where you're an affiliate, you represent the product, but they'll give away a little complimentary kit for you, so it doesn't hit to your bottom line. But you can send something out, 90 days later, an aftercare kit to a homeowner that just shows up, those types of things. And so those are the things you want to be creative about that you can do. But think about the long term. Okay, 5 minutes, we got to get cooking. I'll speed up a little bit. We're almost done. So you want to really have that intentionality. So you want to have a dedicated department for that, whether that's the front desk administrator, so that you're investing the proper amount of time and energy on that. And the whole purpose of that is to get referrals by design and not by chance. Thanks for the heads up on the 5 minutes. We're almost at the end. Just going to give you my final tips on this, and we do have time for question and answer. Okay. Is my pro tips, and essentially that'll put you in the fast lane if you're looking to build this. Again, all of this when you scan the QR code that'll come up on the screen. This presentation will be sent to you, so you don't have to worry about missing some of the details. Number 1 is to apply the 80-20 rule. Number 2 is to standardize to scale. And number 3 is to build for average. So the 80-20 rule, if you're familiar with that, and there's some good books on that, is the Pareto's principle. To keep it simple, you can take this way down the rabbit hole, but to keep it simple, 20% of the input, so that's money, time, energy, et cetera, is responsible for 80% of the output. So when I've shared all these things with you, it can feel like, oh, that's really complicated, there's a lot of work to do. Just focus on the biggest levers inside of each of those 4 parts. So when you sit back and assess your business and it's lead nurturing, one of the biggest levers is not to think about building the most robust system, unless you have the time, energy, and resources to do that. It's just calling people back faster than anybody else. That's going to be the biggest lever, and there's all sorts of statistics behind that. But you'll essentially, if you focus on that one thing alone, help to fill some of that capacity gap. So it differs for every business, but that's rule number 1, or pro tip number 1. Pro tip number 2 is standardize to scale. So if you're looking to grow, rapid growth can put a lot of strain on a business. So keep that in mind, that growth is the increase of size of a business, revenue, or market share. But scaling is the ability to maintain or increase your efficiency and profitability while you grow. So that's, once you get to that point, if you've seen a decline, okay, it's somewhat similar. Because in order to make up that amount, you've got to do a lot more, right? You've got a lot of new systems and processes in place that you didn't have before. That can put a lot of pressure and sometimes have a negative return if you're not putting things that are standardized, processes and systems in place for that efficiency and be able to maintain that. All right, and this last one might sound a little weird, but build for average. So we've been working with stone fabricators since 2016, and you don't want to rely on having all-star performers to drive your business, your growth, your sales. That person may leave, they may retire, they may go work for a competitor, and it's not something you can rely on. So your systems and processes have to be built to take average and make their results be all-star, level. So that's my last tip on that. All right, so as promised, I would highly recommend, if it's not helpful now, but in the future, scan that. What'll happen is it'll be automated. It'll fire this presentation to you. It'll also include just some information. We have a turnkey sales engine program that we build for stone companies in 90 days. We have many different members of Rockheads Group that are utilizing our sales engine, SFA, ISFA, et cetera. So there'll be information on that as well as a special offer. And there are more people here than there were at Tice. So I was going to offer I am offering a complimentary consultation. That's 30 minutes. We can talk about anything you want. I've been helping stone shops since 2016 with all kinds of things. And so that time is yours, but we have a limited amount of spots, 5 spots, so you can book yours. The faster that you do that, make sure that you will get that time with me, and I'll be available for you. All right, guys, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Perfect.
Yeah,
thank you very much. I know my first 30 minutes will be booked with you, Justin, but thank you. Any quick questions before we break here?
I want to talk about the UVP or get a little info on the UVP, and I think there might be some difference on what you want it to be, what it actually is, what your clients see that you might not be able to connect with or know about. Do you have right?
Unique value proposition.
Unique value proposition. So, I know what I want my company's unique value proposition to be, but is it actually that? Is it even the important thing for the customers?
Sure.
Well, I could do more thinking on this, but I would think it maybe be the more trustworthy company to deal with. So that's where my question lies.
Sure. This is one of the hardest things. Nancy, we're going to have to put something together for this specifically. And get that out there, because it really is the keystone, there, for the pun in there, that holds everything else together and allows you to amplify your success. So if you're running marketing campaigns, but there's no clear unique value proposition that differentiates you, then your marketing campaigns don't convert as well as others. The one thing I would say is that's one of the really challenging things to get to, and it takes a little bit of time to go through that process and that exercise. But number one is when you go through that, if you write it down on a piece of paper, is it defensible? Can your competitor just go ahead and say the exact same thing? If you go to their website, will it say trustworthy, white glove service, headache-free install, all that stuff? Because if they can, then it's not a truly unique value proposition. The way that you can take something like that of trustworthy, reliable, guaranteed to install as promised, and have your vision of what your dream project, your dream outcome looks like, and we'll nail that with 100% precision, is you could go and put that on your website, and your competitor could do that as well. But it's not tangible, right? There's not a clear, well, how do you do that? So the main thing is you have to be able to have a clear process for how you arrive at that ideal outcome. What pain do you solve? What problem do you solve? And what's your clear, guaranteed, repeatable process to achieve that? And what's your track record for achieving that? So it's something you really have to back it up, right? And then generally you want to package it so that somebody can understand that, right? So whatever the statement is, and then 3 bullets simply that makes that credible, if that helps, yeah.
Perfect, great question, thank you. Appreciate your time. Justin, grab the QR code, and we actually have another one starting here right now, Insurance 101 for Fabricators. But appreciate your time. Big round of applause for Justin again, and thank you.
If anybody does have more questions, because people do, I'll just hang out on the side here and you can grab me. All right, thanks guys.